Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
8:37 on the Morning Majority. You know, we see all this Occupy Wall Street stuff going on, and I'm wondering what the view is from those who occupy a seat on the Wall Street Journal's editorial board. Well, as it turns out, we're going to find out right away, because joining us now on the phone line is Stephen Moore, who's a member of the Wall Street Journal's editorial board. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning.
So how's that going down there? You're in New York, I guess, and you're seeing all this stuff going on. Is it wearing thin? What's your take on it?
Well, I was there Tuesday. I actually live in Washington, but I was up in New York on Tuesday, and I actually interviewed a bunch of the folks that were protesting in front of Wall Street. And, they don't know what they want, really. I remember I asked one person who said, I want a job. I said, would you take a job from a corporation? Oh, no, I would take a job from a corporation.
Man.
So, I think what this really is these are the people who bought into hope and change. They thought the Messiah would bring back all the kind of strong economy that we all want, and I think when it became clear that wasn't going to happen, that open change hadn't worked, that you've got this kind of liberal rage because the Messiah didn't deliver, and now the economy is in wreckage, and they don't know what to do. They don't know who to turn to.
Yeah, it seems like they don't understand this whole idea of how business works to provide jobs.
Right.
It's astonishing.
Well, that's well put. There's an old saying that liberals love jobs, but they hate employers, and that was exactly what the kind of tone was of these protests that were in New York. By the way, as you know, they've started here, and I was here yesterday, and it was the same kind of thing. We hate corporations, we hate businesses, we hate free enterprise, but we want jobs. It's like there's a disconnect there.
One of the things they're talking about, too, a lot is debt forgiveness, specifically of student loans. A lot of them are young people who have a lot of student loans. Did not President Obama put the federal government in charge of all that lending just this year? Why haven't they fixed it?
Good point, Mary Catherine. Yeah, that's right. The federal government was supposed to fix that problem. And, to some extent, I have two kids in college, and the cost of universities now is so out of control. That's another mini scandal that that has to be dealt with. But these kids are now graduating from college with $200,000 of student loans, so that's a big problem. But this idea that everybody's just going to forgive the mortgages, forgive the loans. Nobody's ever going to make a loan again if you forgive all the mortgages and all the student loans.
From a political standpoint, Steve, you said they're obviously upset that the policies of the president haven't been put forth or have failed. I'm wondering what that will mean for the president, and what about the anger towards the White House? Are they upset with President Obama? Do you think that will cause them not to show up in 2012?
I think I don't know about that, but I'll say this. I don't think on balance this is a good for the president. But remember, the president, Mary Catherine, said he was going to be a uniter.
Right.
Remember? And what these protests are all about is division. It's us against them. It's rich versus poor. It's, the top 1% versus the bottom 99%. And I think this rage is only highlighting the fact that everything the president has done to deal with this economic crisis has failed. The $860 billion stimulus bill, the cash for clunkers plan, the mortgage modification plans, his new jobs plan is going nowhere. And I think it's simply, people are afraid. They've been out of jobs for a long time. But I think the people are kind of watching this on TV are saying, these people are crazy. What we need is a regime change in Washington.
All right, let's turn to what's going on in Europe, which is something we've been following for quite some time. There's talk of finally getting something done, a La Tarp-like situation in Europe. Is that actually going to go through this time, and will it work?
Oh, it'll probably go through. Whether it'll work, I doubt it. Look, the big problem in Europe is simply that they have these incredibly large and obese welfare states. They have high taxes, and they've destroyed their economies with these cradle-to-grave dependency welfare state systems. And I think the message for America is, look, we've got to get our entitlements turned around, or this is exactly where we're headed. We can see it right through, the window pane that this is where we are headed. It's almost like a message from God. Get your debt under control. Get your spending under control. Stop the entitlement spending. And yet we've done nothing in the United States to deal with our crisis. And that's what, remember, there's 80 million baby boomers that are going to be retiring in the next 5 or 10 years. This is going to cause an incredible burden to taxpayers, and I just think that's what we should be focusing on in the U.S. is how do we avoid that future that's crippling countries like Greece and Portugal and Spain right now.
So, Steve, big GOP debate tomorrow. A lot of people think that if Rick Perry doesn't sort of shape up tomorrow, he's in very serious trouble. What would you like to see on the entitlement problem from some of these guys? What do you think is missing from the debate?
Well, I think they've got to be really bold. I think they've got to be straight with the American people. I think, the only guy who's actually said it straight with the American people is Rick Perry. I mean, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. That's one of the few truisms we've heard out of politicians for a long time, that the system is going broke, and then you've got, pretty soon you only have two people paying into the system for every person retired. I like the old idea of going back to individual retirement accounts for workers, let them put money into IRAs, especially young kids, people just starting their workforce. But, we've got to raise the retirement age, we've got to means test these programs, and nobody wants to get serious about it. But you're right about one thing. This is a critical debate for Rick Perry. If he doesn't perform now, he's done. And I'll also be interested to see how this Herman Cain phenomenon, whether it continues to gather steam, because he is the flavor of the month right now.
Some people don't like the 999 plan. What are your thoughts on it?
Look, from economically, if we have the 999 plan, our economic problems go away. I mean, this is rocket fuel for, oh my gosh, can you imagine if we only have a 9% business tax and a 9% income tax? All the capital from all over the world would come here. All the money that's going to China, India, would come here overnight. So, I helped Herman Cain put this together a few years ago, so I'm a little biased. But the real problem is, and we wrote about this in the editorial page at the Journal, are the American people willing to accept the 9% national sales tax? Right. I don't know about that, and there's a danger if we had a national sales tax that the urge would be for politicians to continue to raise it as they do in Europe all the time. So economically, I think it's awesome. I think politically it's potentially problematic, but I think, look, the way I put it in our editorial is we have supersized economic problems in this country, and Herman Cain has been the one who's gutsy enough to come up with supersized solutions.
Steve, we just have a second or two left, but a lot of talk about we may already be in another recession. What do you think?
No, the jobs report that came out Friday was very reassuring. It's not a great report, but it was a good report, and I think that really reduced the chances, at least for now, of the double dip. We're looking at really just low growth, 1 or 2%. One last statistic, 1.1 million jobs. That's how many jobs were created by Ronald Reagan in September of 1983. Same point. We should be creating 5 or 6 times as many jobs as we are right now. And if you want to annoy a liberal, compare Reaganomics with Obamanomics.
There you go.
All right, Steve, great to have you on as always. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
See you guys soon.